This is the third and final part of the holiday ornament. For this part, you are going to need your stitched top portion, your circle that is going to be the back, a needle and thread, a pair of scissors, and a small amount of fiberfill. So I've taken my needle, I've already threaded it, and I have matched up my two ends so that I have double thickness thread, and I've tied a knot at the end. And we are going to be doing a blanket stitch all the way around the outside of the ornament. So what I want to do is go between the two layers of fabric so that I can hide my knot within the ornament. So I've just matched up the edges as best I can, and I have it going through that top layer. My knot is in the middle, and then what I want to do is go around to the back, and I want my needle to just come up right where the thread has started. And before I pull it all the way through, I'm going to put my needle through the loop. And that's going to kind of lock in that first stitch. And then what I want to do is go with my needle through the front and through both layers. And once again, before I pull it all the way through, I'm going to pull my needle through that loop. Make sure both of my threads are pulled all the way through. If you've noticed that there's a little loop, you can just separate those threads, pull them separately until you find which side has the little problem. And then I'm just going to continue, always going through from the front, putting my needle through the loop, and go all the way around. If you find that you need to get a new piece of thread, you can just tie it off. Okay, and that's just going to be taking your needle, doing one more stitch, wrapping it around like we tie off for buttons and everything else. And what you want to do is stitch till you get to about 3/4 of the way around the ornament. I have gone a little further than 3/4 of the way around. I did have to tie off my thread and restart with a new piece of thread about halfway through. So it certainly is fine if you have to do that. What I'm going to do now, before I close it all the way up, is I'm going to take a little bit of my stuffing, or my polyfill, and I'm just going to just lightly stuff it. It doesn't have to have a lot. I'm very likely not going to use all of this, but just enough that it kind of gives a little bit of a shape. And then what I'll do is then match up my edges again, and I will continue with that blanket stitch to close up the last bit of the hole. And then I'll just overlap. When I'm ready to tie it off, I'll just overlap with my first stitch. And then I'll just do one more little stitch so that it's all tied up in place. Wrap around my loop and pull it through. And then to hide that end, I'll just take my needle, put it through, and then trim my thread. Now what you also can do, just as a little bit of extra dimension for your ornament, is that you can do what would be called a tuft right in the middle. So what I'm going to do, I have a pretty small knot. I'm going to put that in the back, and what I'm going to do is just put it right through the middle of my ornament, kind of feel around so that my needle comes right up through the middle of the stars, or if you left the center, still the center of the stars, and then you just kind of pull it, and then I'm going to do just a very small stitch and have it come back up through close to where the knot is. And pull it like that. And then I can do that one more time. If you want, you can use a button on the front to help with that tuft, but it's certainly not necessary. You can just do it with the stitch. I'm going to do it one more time. So 3 times around, just to make sure that it's nice and secure. And I'm trying to make sure that my stitch pretty much is in the same spot every single time. And then the tricky part is going to kind of be tying it off. So what I would suggest is kind of pushing that back out. Trying to get one more little stitch in there. And tying it off just like we do with all our other stitching projects. And then you can just kind of put the needle in there so you can hide that end. And then what you finally can do is take some more thread and you can just create a hanger, or if you have thin ribbon, you can try to feed it through with your needle. But just thread is fine for your hanger. And then once you have it all complete, make sure that you take a picture of it and you post it to the Google Classroom assignment.